last night was the WWE Hall of Fame 2014 induction ceremony. There were some high points, there were some low points, there was some stuff that didn't really impress me too much. But Lita kicked it off. Lita, good God, she talked forever. So long. It was a good speech, though. I mean, Lita, well deserved. Let's give her due. Let's give her time. Obviously paved the way. There would be no AJ Lee if there wasn't a Lita. AJ is like the new Lita. There's so many similarities. She's punk. She's hardcore. She's psycho. It's like a mirror image in a lot of ways. Just AJ Lee's short and has black hair. Lita talked. She told some stories about travel agents back in the day and how she traveled down to Mexico to become a wrestler. How she met Arn Anderson. I can't remember what city she said it was in, but she met Arn Anderson. She went to the WWE hotel, or WCW hotel at the time. Met Arn Anderson and met Rey Mysterio, and it was a great speech. It went a little long, but hey, it's the Hall of Fame. Let's let her have her moment. Jake Roberts. The two speeches I was looking the most forward to tonight were Jake the Snake Roberts and Scott Hall. For obvious reasons, the two guys should not be alive, let alone inducted into to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. With Jake Roberts, with his addictions, his wrestling career was over. He wasn't wrestling. If he was, it was beer halls, bingo halls. I mean, talk about a 360 or a 180. I mean, the man's career has been resurrected. He's not wrestling anymore, but I mean, the fact that this man is still around today and still alive today, it was going to be an emotional speech. I mean, he said so many great things. You didn't know what to expect from Jake the Snake Roberts on this Hall of Fame speech, just because of, the animosity and the exile he had to go into after WWE because of his addictions and his demons. WWE, they're a multi-billion dollar corporation, and they can't have somebody on TV and on contract who's self-destructive and, lets their demons get the best of them. So, I mean, you can't blame them for taking as long as they did to allow Roberts back on TV, because he gets clean and sober and then he relapses like crazy. So, but with the DDP yoga program he was on with Diamond Dallas Page, DDP saved that man's life. And, but like I said, you didn't know what Roberts was going to say going into it just because of the history. But I've got to hand it to the guy. And I think anybody who watched that speech, just like me, you're not ashamed to admit that you did not have a dry eye during that speech. It was hard not to cry. I mean, the man, Jake came out, he admitted all of his flaws and all of his downfalls. He admitted that he's fucked up his career. He said, my heart and my mind still want it, but my body can't do it justice. And to just see his face when he said it, it was just, your heart goes out to that man. You can tell he still loves the business, but he hates the business at the same time because of what he did to himself because of it. He compared his love of wrestling and his addictions to the ring to a woman, the only woman he's never cheated on. He just felt there was so much redemption in that speech. He said that at one point he's been jealous of his friends that didn't make it. That he got so low that he wished he was dead, but he couldn't commit suicide because he didn't want to hurt his family more than he already had. He said, and then you get a handout from that one person, and for me that was Diamond Dallas Page. He said, Diamond Dallas Page saved my life, and he did. DDP would not let Roberts die. He would not let him curl up and roll over and die. He saw the potential and he saw through all of the addiction and all of the demons and all of the downfalls. He saw through to the Jake Roberts that we all know, the Jake Roberts that I never got to see wrestle, but you guys all did. I wasn't really alive yet for most of that career. And if I was too young to know anything. He said, "I'm ashamed that I wasted the talent, but I'm happy right now because my family is here." He said his heroes are his family because they gave him a second chance, just like the WWE did. He brought his grandson up on stage and said that Vince better look out because in 20 years, that's going to be the next Roberts. I mean, it was an amazing speech, and by far the highlight of the night, at least for me. Anybody that's had any addictions, like, whether it's cutting, cigarettes, alcohol, heavy drugs, weed, whatever it is, if you've had any addictions, I know I've had mine. Anybody who is on a bigger stage than we are, who has those demons, those addictions, that conquers them, you connect with them, and you it's hard to keep it together when you see them getting what they deserve. And there's no man on the face of this earth that deserves the Hall of Fame more than Jake Roberts, except maybe Scott Hall, who deserves it just as much, and I'll get to him in a little bit. Mr. T came up, and there's only one word to describe Mr. T's speech: Mama and God. Mama and God. He spent about 45 minutes talking about his mama and God. He opened with prayer. He preached. He read scripture. Anybody, if you're an atheist like me, it was kind of frustrating. Not because he talked about God. He did so much. WWE has been trying to induct Mr. T for so long, and he wouldn't do it. He finally did, and there's no denying what Mr. T did for WWE or WWF back in the day. It's just like everybody in the interviews and promos and segments has said, he took WWE to another level and helped WWE cross over into the mainstream media, like the talk shows and the TV shows and all that. WrestleMania 1 was revolutionary, and that's the reason you have the Mike Tysons that did WWF with DX. That's the reason you have Dennis Rodman and Karl Malone doing the NWO and DDP feud back in the 90s, early 2000s. I think it was 98 or 99. That's the reason you have the Raw co-hosts, the Raw guest stars today, because Mr. T was there at WrestleMania 1. So was Cyndi Lauper and Liberace. They'll get inducted in their own time. Well, obviously Liberace won't be there because the dude's dead, but Mr. T, well deserving of being in the celebrity wing of the WWE Hall of Fame. I'm not going to talk much about his Hall of Fame speech just because it was so ungodly long. Moving on, another man that is long overdue for the Hall of Fame, Paul Bearer. I wish they would have inducted him when he was alive, because that would have been a great speech to watch and a great speech to hear. But Kane came out. Mr. T's speech ended because Kane came out and cut him off. And Kane came out to induct Paul Bearer. He said, "I'm sorry, I hated to cut Mr. T short, but all that talk about his mama was cutting into my time, talking about my daddy." And if, Mick Foley, obviously, when he was Mankind, he wasn't managed by Paul Bearer for horribly long. Undertaker, he'll probably never do a Hall of Fame speech just because it doesn't fit his character. The only one left to really introduce Paul Bearer is Kane. And Kane said it best: if there was no Paul Bearer, there would be no Kane. Kane opened up with a great story about Paul Bearer. I'm sure if you search YouTube, you can find it. Paul Bearer, arguably the best manager, unarguably the most unique manager and eccentric manager in WWE history, if not all of wrestling history. Obviously, there's a lot of managers out there that people don't know about. They were just as eccentric and unique, but Paul Bearer on the major stages, by far one of the best. He's responsible for taking Undertaker to the next level. There'd be no Kane without Paul Bearer. Paul Bearer really capitalized and utilized the psychoticness and the dark side of the Mankind character. Just people who don't know much about wrestling, that are just, they watch it every once in a while, you could never truly understand what Paul Bearer really, really did and what he was all about, and how much he helped talents. And it's almost a travesty that they didn't induct him when he was alive. But he did get inducted finally, and that's really all that matters in the long run, because he is in there. And if Kane wasn't good enough, Daniel and Michael Moody, both of Paul Bearer's sons, were there to accept it. And after one of his sons did the "Ooh, yes" impersonation, the lights went down, and Undertaker's music hit, and out comes Undertaker. We didn't think he was going to be at the Hall of Fame just because he's always said that, it doesn't fit his character to be there, which, I mean, true. Undertaker comes out. It was just a couple seconds long. The smoke billows out. Out comes Undertaker. He gets down on his knee. He raises the urn up in one last tribute to Paul Bearer. It was amazing to see. It was great to watch. And it would just be a shame if Undertaker didn't make an appearance, for Paul Bearer, because of everything Paul Bearer did for him. It was like he really was probably like a father to Mark and Glenn, Kane and The Undertaker. Carlos Colon was inducted by Primo and Epico, Los Matadores, his sons, and his other son, Carlito, who we haven't seen on WWE TV in some time. It was a good speech. A very good speech. It was mostly in Spanish, but I mean, again, one man that a lot of people don't think of that deserves the Hall of Fame. Going back to what I talked about with Jake Roberts, another man that well overdue, but WWE had to wait and see if him being clean and sober was for real and was going to stick. Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, could not be more deserving of the WWE Hall of Fame. The man has been through hell. I mean, just like Jake, he shouldn't even be alive. He should have overdosed a long time ago. I mean, there's the infamous, indie show where Scott Hall showed up. He doesn't even remember it. He was so jacked up on drugs and alcohol. He still had the hospital band on from the night before, and Just Incredibles even said that it was the most embarrassing thing he's ever been a part of. I mean, Scott Hall, one of the most self-destructive men in all of pro wrestling history, joined DDP Yoga just like Jake the Snake Roberts did, turned his life around. A lot of people, including me, did not know what to expect from Hall. Was he going to be sober? Was he going to be clean? Of course he was. DDP was there with him. DDP is like, he's a mentor to Scott Hall, which is weird to think about if you watched WCW back in the day like I did, to think that DDP is a mentor to Scott Hall, who's been in the business longer than DDP, but health-wise, DDP's been in it longer than Scott Hall. And if anybody can help anybody become healthy and strong-minded, it's Diamond Dallas Page. The last time we saw Scott Hall on TV really wasn't much to talk about. He was in bad shape. Scott Hall hit the stage. He's a little bit heavier. He's got more gray hair now. He looked fucking good. He had the toothpick, took the toothpick and flicked it at the camera just like he did back in the day. He was in Scott Hall Razor Ramon form. It was outstanding. He started off, "Hey yo," it was amazing. The Jake the Snake and Razor Ramon Scott Hall were the two speeches I was personally looking forward to the most. And Mick Foley said it best in the Hall of Fame red carpet show. "Don't cut to me during Jake the Snake Roberts' speech. I don't want anyone to see me crying." Mick Foley gets it. He knows what Jake the Snake Roberts, he knows what Scott Hall have been through. He knows how hard those two have worked. And anybody who understands not just wrestling but understands addiction knows how hard it is to get clean and sober and stay clean and sober, even if it's not a substance abuse addiction. Anybody who's had one knows how hard it is to kick it and keep off of it and keep away from it. It's hard. And just like everybody else, I still struggle with it today, but this isn't about me. I'm not going to talk about me. it was an emotional speech. Hall didn't really choke up and break down as much as Jake Roberts did. It was a shorter speech, but after the insanely long Lita and Mr. T speeches, unfortunately, a lot of the speeches had to be cut short. But seriously, no man deserves this induction more than Scott Hall does. Just like Kevin Nash said that he thought that when he inducted Shawn Michaels a few years ago, that was as emotional as it was going to get. He was wrong. To see just the Scott Hall rising up and getting his shit together like he has, anybody who gets it and anybody who knows wrestling knows how much Scott Hall and Jake the Snake Roberts love this business and love the business of professional wrestling. And the only thing we've all ever wanted was to see those two guys get their lives together. We don't have to see them wrestle again, but we want to see them healthy and live a little bit longer. We want to see them in the Hall of Fame because they deserve it. They earned it, and I can't even say it enough. Scott Hall said, "Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do." After that, X-Pac, or X6, the 1-2-3 kid, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and Kevin Nash came out, hugged Scott Hall. Triple H shook his hand, which it's great to see the COO of WWE acknowledging what Scott Hall has accomplished over the last few years. And a lot of people who are wrestling fans know that was the Clique. An old faction, an old stable from the early WWE days in the 90s, and it was good to see that. It was good to see the Clique back together for a couple minutes and posing for a picture and embracing each other. And again, nobody deserves the Hall of Fame more than Jake Roberts and Scott Hall do. I'm sure I'm leaving somebody out, but show me somebody that deserves it more than those two men do, because those two have been through holy hell and back. We had, to end it all, we had the Ultimate Warrior inducted to the Hall of Fame, and of course, just another complete loose cannon as far as professional wrestling goes, especially with all of the bad blood between WWE and the Ultimate Warrior, whether it's between fans of the Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior, WWE itself and the Ultimate Warrior, WWE Superstars, the Ultimate Warrior, WWE Legends and the Ultimate Warrior. Everybody has been at odds with the Ultimate Warrior over the last decade or two, ever since the man left. They obviously, you knew he was going to touch on it and talk about it. The WWE, the DVD they released where everyone talked shit on the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, it took a long ass time, 18 years, for the Warrior to get accepted by the WWE, let alone inducted into their Hall of Fame. But I mean, the Hall of Fame is about men and women who left their mark on the WWE history, that fans loved, that the universe loved, and that will always be remembered. And the Ultimate Warrior falls into that category. Anytime the Warrior hit the ring, whether it was WCW, WWE, or indie shows, fans went crazy. He's still one of the most popular wrestlers in history. Ask anybody who's a longtime wrestling fan about the Ultimate Warrior, and they'll tell you about him. Some of the most memorable and interesting promo cuts ever. Warrior, a lot of it was pointless rambling from the Ultimate Warrior, but a lot of it was very well said. I'm not going to really touch on a whole lot of what he said, but he took his punches, he took his swings like you would expect him to. But I mean, it's been a long time coming. Overall, it was a great speech. Warrior deserves it. Hulk Hogan was in the front row. It was interesting to see his reactions to some of what Warrior said. But I mean, Hogan even said it on Twitter today that nobody deserves it more than the Ultimate Warrior. It's great to see him in the Hall of Fame. It's well deserved. It's been a long time coming. Warrior, he put to rest rumors of another match. He said it's not going to happen. It will never happen, which, that's probably a good thing, because he's older, he's probably slower, he probably doesn't have what he used to have. He's been out of the business for almost 20 years now. So it's just, let's let that one go. But he also said that he signed a multi-year deal as an ambassador for WWE, so he'll be similar to what Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, and a lot of these older legends are doing. But overall, good speech from the Ultimate Warrior. It was good to see him on stage. And he acknowledged that, that his two daughters are too young to have ever seen anything he did in the ring. But it was a lot of really cool stuff. But he said that, he told them that the coolest thing he's ever done is to be their father. And it was really cool to see him say that. It really shows where his heart is at and where he's at personally. And, congratulations to everybody that was in the induction class of 2014 for the WWE Hall of Fame. What did you guys think of the speeches? What did you guys think of Mr. T and Lita, Paul Bearer, Razor Ramon, Jake the Snake Roberts, Ultimate Warrior? What do you guys think? Sound off in the comments. Let me know. I'm interested in hearing your take on things. And what do you guys think of next year's class, which is supposedly already going to have The Rock and Sting next year, supposedly, which is why they're bringing Sting in, so that he can get inducted next year. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of maybe the NWO being inducted next year or in 2 years? Sound off. Let me know what you think. And we'll see you after WrestleMania.